Hi everyone, Owlvine here. This week on Starting Out Solitary, we're talking about neo-paganism and Wicca. Neo-paganism is a term we use for new paganism. So neo literally, translates as new. So to differentiate between the paganism of old and the paganism that we're practicing now. Now, some people don't like the term neo-paganism. They find it offensive to be coined as such. Personally, I don't use the term, but I think that it can be an important distinction when kind of looking at paganism in an academic kind of way. The fact is that we do practice paganism now very differently to the way our ancestors did. Now, paganism as well, it can become very messy, this whole topic, because paganism is an umbrella term. It is literally any religion or spirituality which is not Abrahamic, so Jewish, Christian, or Islamic. So there are a lot of different religions that come under this umbrella, a lot of different spiritualities and all that sort of thing. So I think, I've seen a lot in this community where we're trying to pinpoint what exactly paganism is, and I think this is where we get very messed up and all that, because it is such a broad term. What I'm kind of referring to today is the kind of paganism that I practice, which is a very westernized modern paganism. So we'll kind of go from there. So the way that we practice now is very different to the way that people of our Western ancestry used to practice, and indeed those who practice paganism in other countries around the world, maybe third world countries and in places like that, where they're a lot more connected to the land and a lot more reliant on the land than we are in our Western culture today. When it's summer and winter, when we're in the most extreme times of our year, it doesn't affect us too greatly. We have heating, we have cooling, we have permanent dwellings, we can go down to the shop anytime we're hungry, we buy what we need, and that's kind of it. We're not strongly reliant on the earth and what she can provide us directly. Obviously we still very much are, but we've become very separate from that, and it's easy to really feel that separation because we are not living on the land. Generally speaking, some people do, but we're not living on the land, we're not relying on her, we're not relying on the moon at night to be able to see, we're not reliant on the sun to warm us, to grow our crops and things like that, so, and the rain and all that other stuff. So I think there is definitely a distinction between people who are so heavily tied up in the land and to how we are today. Now, there are, I think, advantages of both. Certainly the raw, deep power of the earth, I think, is something that was much easier to really connect with for our ancestors and for people who live much closer to the land. But I think also, we're so lucky that we live like this, and we live in this time where we have the freedom and the safety to experience and to practice exactly how we want. We don't have to spend all the hours of our day toiling, just to survive. But we do have this luxury of kind of time and space and comfort and all that sort of thing to practice how we like. In terms of Wicca as well, and this whole, neo-paganism, for some reason people seem to think that if they can somehow prove that, the spirituality that they practice is, ancient or however many years old, somehow that makes it more valid than something that is perhaps someone's, eclectic tradition that they've been practicing for one generation. It's interesting how that kind of is a thought that we hold, when really spirituality is about your connection with divinity, whatever that is, you know, the earth or deities or spirit or, you know, whatever it is. It's about how deep that connection is for you, and that is between you and divinity. You know, it's not anyone else's business. And just because there are rituals and practices that have gone back generations, it doesn't mean that they're any better than something that is new. It's kind of a ridiculous thought, really, because at the end of the day, bear with me here, at the end of the day, all spirituality and all religion is construct of human mind. All these things are people's experiences. Religion and spirituality is a person's experience of the divine and how they choose to interpret the divine. Just because, you know, some dude 2,000 years ago, you know, wrote a book about how he experienced the divine, doesn't make that any more valid than your own experience right now, even if it's completely different to how he chose to explain that experience, if that makes sense. There is no greatness in having a religion or spirituality that is considered to be 2,000, 10,000, 15,000 years old. It's all just people explaining their spiritual experience at the end of the day. And Wicca is a religion that is neo, is quite new. You know, Gerald Gardner came out with all this stuff about it being something that was traced back for, you know, however long, since the days of old. And that just, it doesn't seem to be true. Some people still want to believe that for their various reasons, and, you know, it is misinformation. But again, if someone chooses to think that and for some reason they find that more validating, then well, that's their business, really, isn't it? Yeah, so those are my thoughts on neo-paganism and Wicca. We're all neo-pagans, but you don't really have to use the term neo if you don't want to, and yeah, very succinct. Alright guys, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next week, starting out solitary. Much love.